So we're recording this episode just before the Tim Walz JD Vance debate.
I know,
And
I'm getting texts about it like incessantly.
so it's got me thinking about debates and how like like the idea about them is like, oh, this is where the ideas of the candidates square off.
Mhm.
And the nation gets to choose whose ideas they liked better. But
Mhm.
that's not what it is, right?
Right.
It is just two grown human beings
Fighting.
fighting and or lying.
Yes.
One or the other or both.
Yes,
And
correct.
trying to say the most memeable thing,
Mhm.
right? Like that's how you win a debate these days is you just say a thing that's memeable. And
Yeah.
there's a bunch of people in the audience who pretend to be undecided voters because that's a fictional creature, right? There's no such thing. So I've been wondering. I wonder if you think there's no competition between two candidates, right? That could sway you one or the other. Not in this specific election, but like in any Republican
Probably
versus
not.
Democratic. Yeah, you would know
Probably
before it
not.
happens.
Like, it kind of reminds me of the Ken Ham and Bill Nye debate, where I feel like nobody was really swayed either way. You know what I mean? Like, they
Right.
debated, they each gave their sides, and I don't think it did anything. I'm just like, all
So,
right, well, that happened.
so what would be more interesting to watch? Right? Like if these people want to compete, they want to
Uh-huh.
pretend like they're winning votes or failing to win votes, right? Like they want to pretend this thing's going on when we all really know it's not.
Right.
So what would we rather see? Like, what would we rather see Tim Walz and JD Vance doing?
Go to a donut shop?
Facing. Oh yeah, well, yeah. So I still think it should be some sort of competition, but like, do we want to see our political opponents, like political candidates? Do we want to see them fist fight? Do we
Oh,
want to
yeah,
see
I
them?
do.
Do we want to see them play Mario Kart against each other? Do we want to see them
Ooh.
like? Lately, I've been thinking of like competitive Sporkle quizzes. Like, imagine Kamala Harris and Donald Trump
Doing a Sporkle quiz?
each sitting down to different Sporkle quizzes, like just like one of those grab bags about like
Yeah.
it'll be like these are my favorite ones where it's like the A quiz and it's like name all the things in this category that begin with A and it'll be like countries,
Yeah.
elements,
Yeah.
capitals, Shakespeare plays, right? It tests your general knowledge of the world. Imagine Kamala Harris and Donald Trump both sitting down to the A quiz.
I would watch it.
And there's at that point there's no saying, "Oh, this is rigged. Oh, this is skewed against me." It's like Donald Trump. You could not think of the name. You did not know that a country named Armenia existed, right? like you did not know that arsenic was an element, right? Like you did not know the Shakespeare play Antony and Cleopatra. You can't pretend like
But here's
right
the
like
thing, though.
we
Here's
would
the thing.
see it. We would see what they're typing in. Like it'd be split screen.
But what if you're a bad tester? Because I think that is a thing that
Right.
happens. Like, what
Right.
if you're just it's an actual phenomenon? What if you're a bad tester? You know, what if you fail the Sporkle quiz?
Right. That's an interesting. But then again, what if you're a bad debater, right? So that's another thing. Like people, they get trained to debate, right? So they can't know what the Sporkle quiz is ahead of time. Like the one, okay, yeah, like okay, they do like 10 in a row, right?
Yeah.
And so one time it might be like name all 151 Pokemon. And like JD Vance would cream Tim Walz in that, unfortunately, right? Like he'd just be like go through his mental pornography Rolodex and he'd be like, okay. And Tim Walz would be like, my son told me about Charizard and he'd get one.
My son told me about Charizard.
But like,
Pikachu.
and that would be fucking hilarious if it was like name all
Right.
the Street Fighter characters, and Donald Trump just named all of them, just like in 10 seconds. And Kamala Harris is like Zangief,
Zangief.
oh man, the stretchy guy. I don't know. It's like time up, and then you look over and Donald Trump's named all of them.
Well, what does that prove?
I don't know, but that's what's funny about, like, that would be so much more. What does a debate prove these days, right? Like, that would be so much more fun.
That'd be so fun.
And,
Should we
like,
pivot? Should we just do Sporkle quiz debate things from now on?
only if we can get really famous people to humiliate themselves. Like, I think that would be the best. Just watching a normal person do a Sporkle quiz, not that fun. But again, watching fucking Joe Biden and Donald
try really hard,
sitting down, and like, or oh my god, in like the primaries, watching, and some people who are good political candidates, like Bernie Sanders, is not gonna do good on like you know.
Name a video game, just one, Bernie. Just one.
Yeah,
you could do it.
Right. Or like the best, all the Oscar winner, like every Oscar winner of all time, he's gonna be like, Titanic and the Forrest Gump. That's all I got. And then
it's rather like, dumb, you know, from New York.
That would be one where Donald Trump would probably kick ass, though, right? Like, honestly, like he probably would be like, he would probably just destroy anybody in like in that kind of quiz,
like an entertainment quiz.
Yeah, and then you'd give him, because he's obsessed with celebrity, right? But then you give him, but then you'd be like, okay, name the flags of the world, and Kamala Harris is just there, just like typing, and Donald Trump is there like pretending that his fingers are cramped, like I can't, this keyboard's not working. I don't have a Trump impression.
That's for the better. So what you're saying is you want to show down with me on a Sporkle quiz?
Only if we're both running for office.
I am.
What office?
Mine. My office.
So if I'm running for 2024 Pushing Up Roses, like I'm trying to become you, then we face off in a Sporkle quiz.
Okay. I'm writing that down, and we're gonna, and next year, as I'm running for, quote, my office, we'll throw down, we'll have a Sporkle debate quiz.
Okay. I'll start prepping now. Cue the Rocky music and me running up and down the steps of the art museum with 2 keyboards in either hand.
You're gonna have to be good, at art and adventure games at the same time.
It'll be like the fragrance quiz, and I'll be like, no!
Hey everyone, welcome back to Save Your Game. I'm your host, Pushing Up Roses, and there's another host to this show, in case you didn't know. He's like frightened and cowering. It's Matt Ocamp. Hi, Matt.
Hey everybody, I'm also the host of the show. How's everybody doing out there in podcast land? Let's give him a second to answer.
That's you know what? I'm glad to hear it, guys. Those were great answers.
What? No, you can't. What if they say, okay, those are great answers is a good response. I'm glad to hear it. What if one of them's like, my whole family just died in a plane crash? And you're like, oh, I'm glad to hear
it. Those are good answers.
Good answers is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if you said to somebody, hey, how are you doing? And then they're like, my cat and dog just killed each other. And you're like, oh, that's a good answer.
I feel like, you know what? The better answer would be like, all right, witnessed. Understood and witnessed.
Heard.
Yeah. I hear you. Happy spooky month. Happy spooky month to you, Matt.
That's valid.
Yeah, it's valid. It's valid. We hear you.
I hear you. Happy spooky month to you. We are now, me and you are now temporally in spooky month.
Yes. Yeah, it is October 1st. Wow, look at that. We are recording on a good day. I like that. Of course, this means absolutely nothing to me. The spooky month is just a month where everybody else gets to celebrate with me.
They catch up.
Yeah, they just catch up. This is who I am all year round. This is just the intensified version. This is Pushing Up Roses 2.0.
People start saying to you, "Oh, nice costume," rather than "Why are you wearing a costume?"
Why did you come to the party wearing that? It's like that meme. Yeah, no, it's great. I love Spooky Month because everybody else gets to enjoy what I enjoy pretty much all the time, and that's nice. I welcome it. I welcome all my spooky kin.
Welcome in.
Welcome in. That's what she said. Sorry. It's not gonna get old.
Every time.
It's not gonna get old.
How are you enjoying the first 20 hours of your spooky month?
Well, I slept.
Hours? Okay.
I did a painting. Turned out pretty good, I think. I bought a new Quest because my first gen Quest was dumb and broken. I bought a new fragrance. Have I talked about this? Have I told the masses about my fragrance era?
I don't know. Do you want to talk about it now?
No.
Okay.
I'll just real quick, guys. I'm really into aromatherapy right now. I always have been, but it's kind of pivoted into like liquid fragrances. So I've been trying a lot of different perfumes, and I just got a new one today, and it's terrible, and I hate it.
Oh, good.
It smells like sour milk.
Okay. Why would they do that?
I don't think it's supposed to.
Oh, okay.
Or listen, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing.
Also, because then why would you have bought something that said sour milk?
I think with a lot of fragrances, it works with your body chemistry. So unfortunately, this particular, it's just a sample. I don't buy full. I'm not made of money over here, people. I'm made of,
close
50 squirrels in a trench coat. So I just buy samples until I can figure out like what kind of scents I like. But your body chemistry is going to dictate how that smells on you. And this particular scent smells like sour milk on me. I don't know what that says about me. I don't know. You've met me in person. Do I smell good?
Yeah, I do. Here's the thing. I don't remember what you smelled like. So clearly that is a good sign, right?
Honestly, I wasn't into my scent era at that point.
Okay.
But the next time you see me, I'll have been fully engulfed.
So if I don't remember your scent at that point, you're gonna be fucking pissed.
Yeah, I'll be sad probably. I won't be pissed, but I'll be like, oh, I thought this scent profile was really nice.
But then again, I'm not a scent guy. I do not like the smell of scents. I like the smell of living in the world way more than I like the smell of a candle or a perfume.
I'll bring a grass scented perfume. Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's all I've ever wanted is somebody to be near me wearing a grass scented perfume. No, it would smell horrible. Everything. I like the smell of actual smell. Like if somebody wants to smell like strawberries, I would much rather they rub strawberries all over themselves.
But here's the thing, though, Matt.
Like a strawberry perfume.
Listen, we're like of a generation where perfumes that we grew up with that our parents sprayed or grandparents, those are very outdated and like old smelling now and mature. They have scents that are like photorealistic, like strawberry. Like you did put a strawberry on you, or like photorealistic, like croissant. I could smell like bread if you wanted me to.
I don't want you to.
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay. Let's say this. I don't care what you smell. You can smell like what. I don't have actually a preference about your smell. You can smell however you want to smell in the world. No literal skin off the inside of my nose. but I don't have any particular desire to smell some scent smith's idea of what bread smells like made out of chemicals.
Listen, here's the problem with me, and there's a lot, But here's a very
Okay, hold on. All right, everybody, this is going to be a very long podcast.
Hey!
Okay, no, okay, let me hear.
Mean. So the problem with me is that I am overly defiant for my own good.
Sure.
So the more that you say you don't like scents, the more I'm going to spray some on and force you to be like, what do you think of this one?
And
What do you smell from this one? What does it smell like, Matt? What does it smell like?
We've met in person one time, so
Yeah.
you are just doing this hours and hours away from me, just out of like this impotent spite, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I'm wearing 19 perfumes right now. Like I can't. I'm in Pennsylvania, Rose. I can't smell you. And you're like, okay, I'll put on another one.
I'll put on another one. And yet I still smell like sour milk. That'd be
That's just all
terrible.
the sour milk you eat.
I don't drink milk at all, so that it's strange, right?
No,
like
you
how
eat it. You eat
I
it once
eat
it
it.
gets chunky and sour.
That's-
Really gross. Huh.
That's very disgusting, and now all I can smell is that. Thanks a lot. I gotta go put on a scent. I gotta go put on a
great.
perfume.
Oh, great. Okay, so have you been playing anything lately?
Yes. And I'll talk very briefly about those things because they're going to go into other things. So I started Phantom Fellows, and I love it so far. I am going to be doing a review on it. So that being said, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I did talk about the demo a couple episodes back, and our last guest was Paul from Phantom Fellows, the dev for Phantom Fellows. So you guys can listen to that. But I am liking it so far. I like the vibe. It's very cozy. And then I've also been playing, upon some random guy's suggestion, when I say random guy in that tone, I mean Matt, Paranormasight, The 7 Mysteries of Honjo, which I couldn't even find because you called it like the 13 Ghosts
I couldn't
of
remember what it was
something.
called. So we were having a phone call about like what we were going to do for Spooky Month, and we were pitching back and forth like spooky games. And I was like, oh, there's this visual novel I've been wanting to play for a while. Oh God, I don't remember. It's like the 7, it's like the 13, it's like the 12,
ghosts.
it's like the 10 it's like there's some amount of ghosts of like a name. Hantai. Like I was just like making shit up. And I forgot about and it's so funny that you called it Paranormasight because that seems like the parody of just like some guy who's like, yeah, I can see pretty well. But I forgot the word Paranormasight, which arguably is the most functional word in the title.
Yeah.
That's like the trademark of the title. And got the number wrong, and I thought it was mysteries instead of ghosts. And anyway.
And then you're like, will you like look for it real quick? I'm like, all right. So I'm like looking, are you on a computer? Will you look for okay. I found nothing. And then I kept looking for it off call. And I'm like, there's nothing.
I bet you saw this. Right? Because I was like, look,
I probably did.
Like popular like it's like got an anime theme. It's like look up popular like spooky visual novels, and you probably were looking at it and you were like, well, this definitely isn't it. Because it doesn't
have ghosts.
Any of the words that Matt said.
But eventually you got back to me.
And I was like, oh, it's hey, sorry, it's this totally other thing.
And my immediate reaction is like, wait a minute, back up. How did you manifest the 13 mysteries of ghosts or whatever? But anyway, once we did find it, I did sit down and I played it. I played it in full, actually. I kind of binged it almost because we will be covering it.
You're not a big visual novel person either.
No, and not necessarily because I don't like them. Mm-hmm. They're not something I gravitate towards naturally because I just don't have the time for them. But when I play them, I do very much enjoy them from time to time. So I'm always open to playing one. It just is a time commitment. It's a brain commitment, because you are getting a story. And this is by Square Enix, formerly Squaresoft. And so I just want you guys to imagine a horror-themed Final Fantasy in visual novel form, and that's what you get. And we will be talking about this later in Spooky Month, because it is scary. It is horror. But I'm mad at it, and I'm never going to forgive Matt for suggesting it.
This happens with
So angry.
many things that I suggest to you.
That's true. There's probably a lot. You could probably like do a text search for "I'm mad at you."
Yeah.
And it would come up like 50 times on my end only.
And it'll be like 3 days before we record any episode.
That I do want to say,
sometimes
I did enjoy it.
You can recommend a game, and then you're still mad at me that you had to play it.
And then I'm still mad. I'm like, wow, why
You're
did
like,
I do this?
You're like, I'm mad at you. I'm like, you.
I'm a little mad at today's suggestion, if I'm frank, and it was mine. See, guys, I told you this is the problem with me, in that there's a lot.
There's a lot of problems with all of us.
Yeah, but I do want to make it clear I did enjoy that game, and I do look forward to discussing it with you on the pod. And I'm trying to decide if a bad ending or a bad experience with an ending, how much that colors my enjoyment or perception of what I had just experienced. I'm like really kind of thinking about that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. What have you been playing?
Well, so I started Paranormasight. And again, we'll talk about it on the show. I did start it. The one thing I'll say is the very beginning of the game is very scary.
Yeah.
And I started it intentionally in bed in pitch black.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, all by myself with the volume up. And it was like an endurance test, right? Like I kept thinking, like I gotta turn the light on. I'm gonna power through. And it was very, very scary.
Yeah, that first section is very frightening.
I played just the very beginning of Phantom Fellows, so nice. I don't have much to say about it besides the fact that if you enjoyed Paul on our last episode, go get Phantom Fellows. It is in his voice entirely. Yes. Like it is, his voice is all over this thing. It is as if it came wholly formed out of his brain. Like the dialogue. You could. I can imagine him saying every line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are the best forms of art.
Where it's just nobody could have made this but Paul.
Yeah, exactly. And I will have a review on that, and I will let you guys know when that is up if you want further opinions on Phantom Fellows and critique.
And I'm sure I'll talk about it on the show as I get deeper into it. But really, so I've had a busy school, like 2 weeks, and some personal life stuff too. So I haven't been playing I haven't had a lot of time for games besides like games for the show.
Yeah.
But one thing I've been doing, because we're in Spooky Month, is, and I'll give this as a recommendation, I've been reading a collection of ghost stories by the Gothic horror writer M.R. James, who wrote in the early 1900s. So this is just a collection of his short ghost stories, and it is very good, very scary. If you like Gothic horror, this book is gonna fucking get you. It's got his story, The Mezzotint. What's number 13? My favorite so far has been Lost Hearts.
Ooh, I like the title.
That one I also think was the scariest of them.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest. Ghost stories frighten me. We've had deep discussion about this. Ghost stories very much frighten me. I love them. Like all my favorite episodes of Unsolved Mysteries are the paranormal, like ghost story ones. But because I have like a belief in that, or at least an openness to it. I don't know what I believe in, man, but I have an openness to a lot of things. Kind of witchy in that way, so I have that spiritual weird thing that spooky women tend to have, and because of my kind of openness towards it, it does frighten me. Especially mean ghosts. I prefer friendly ghosts. Just want to put that out there.
This book is basically all mean ghosts.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in ghosts. I don't have much belief in anything beyond the... I'm not a supernatural believer. I'm not a religious person. I have no... I am a faithless human, but
Good lord.
I have faith in human beings. I have faith in people.
Gross.
But but I like to give myself really over to, well, like if I'm reading a ghost story, if I'm watching a scary movie, I like to really give myself over to it as if I believe it, and I find
Yeah.
that makes them much more enjoyable. So anyway, this book is the Ghost Stories of M.R. James. It's the British Library hardback edition, and it doesn't have as many stories as some of the other M.R. James collections, but this edition is fucking beautiful. So.
Mhm. That's awesome.
And it's got that same sort of, that gothic, like they're slow burns.
Mhm.
It's like he's telling you a story in a in the drawing room after after a sophisticated dinner.
I actually kind of like
And
that.
like front loads with a ton of details, and then the spooky stuff starts seeping in from the sides.
Yeah.
Like I really dig that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, that's instead of games, the ghost stories of M.R. James.
Nice. I love it. That's perfect for spooky month.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it for me. So today, Roses, I believe what we're going to be talking about is when was this game released?
2015.
The
And
2015.
it was my game of the year.
Oh shit.
Back in the day.
So this is the 2015 game by Kill Monday Games, Fran Bow.
Fran Bow. Yeah. Revisiting it made me pretty sad. It is a scary. Don't get me wrong. This is a horror game, and I think what's interesting about horror is that there's a lot of subgenre that you can look into that you can consider horror.
Right.
Everything kind of holds hands in certain ways. So, Fran Bow is more on the psychological side, where I think sad things can become frightening.
But there's also just some weird stuff.
Yes, there
Well,
is.
well, we will get into it. It is a very bizarre game, but I think this is going to be a pretty spoiler heavy edition. So,
Yes, it will be. Yeah.
So if you're interested in playing Fran Bow, to be safe, maybe if you really don't want anything spoiled, you might just want to go play the game first and then come back to the show.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But I'm ready to get into it if you are.
Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Save Your Game. I am Matt Ocamp. This is Pushing Up Roses. How's your break?
Hi. It's good. I thought a lot.
Okay, that's good.
That's what I do.
I love to hear that your brain is functioning.
I didn't say that. Let's not be silly.
So today we're going to be talking about Fran Bow for Spooky Month, and this is like a pretty fucking intense one.
It is intense, yeah.
And some of it is very scary, and some of it is not. How do we want to start this? When did you first play Fran Bow?
I played it the year it came out. I was very excited about it, and I was in talks with the devs. Kill Monday. Natalia is the main dev, and where most of the inspiration and story came from was from her personal experiences growing up. So she is a big part of the creative process and the story and how this came to be. And they gave me a key for it, and I really liked it. I think I streamed it right off the bat. Maybe not even understanding that there were a few heavy jump scares, right, in the beginning of this game. But yeah, I played it in 2015. It was my personal game of the year when I was doing heavy game reviews for YouTube. I really liked it. Yeah. It's hard to explain the feelings you get out of playing a game like Fran Bow, because it feels trite to say this was fun.
Right.
Because it's not necessarily fun in the traditional sense. It's an experience, and it's meaningful. I found it engaging and thoughtful. I'll say that then.
Yeah, I definitely thought I agree. I think it was engaging and thoughtful. I played this a couple years ago, and got through like the first chapter, got to the second chapter, and
Mhm.
I fell off pretty hard.
Okay.
I knew that I knew that there was a lot about it that I enjoyed. There's something about the pace of like the puzzles,
Mhm.
and the progression that I lost my momentum on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Fair.
Um, and so I was glad to have a reason to go back to it, and I think I found it way more. I found where this story goes to be very surprising. So why don't we just
Mhm.
start out with like so it starts with you're a little girl, 11-year-old
Yes.
girl.
10.
Um, I thought she was 10 for the whole game, and then at the end she calls herself 11.
I think that maybe a year has gone by.
Whoa. That's surprising. But okay, so you start as a 10-year-old girl named Fran, and she is in a mental institution in 1944
Yeah.
because she discovered both of her parents murdered and chopped up into little pieces,
Mhm.
fled into the woods with her cat, Mr. Midnight, and then was discovered, brought to an institution where things are kind of fucked up.
Yes, and I think that definitely draws a lot of inspiration from how kids were treated during the war times during when children were institutionalized. I don't know, during that whole chapter you're in an institution, you probably maybe got the idea that there was some Joseph Mengele ties to that.
Yes.
So yeah, as Fran, you are being treated. You know that your parents have died. You don't know how they were murdered, and you're being treated to for this trauma. There's a lot of references to trauma and to childhood trauma in the game specifically. But again, these children are being mistreated in the way that they were being mistreated and experimented on in the actual 40s. So there are implications that children are being lobotomized
Yes.
and or sewn together, which was something that did happen in
Right.
the 1940s. And I believe that Fran will also be. It is implied that she is also an experiment. She is being treated, and we're going to find out more about that as we go. There's a lot of theory about Fran Bow and what things mean and if
Yeah.
things are actually happening. And we'll dive into that. I'm actually really interested to know what your interpretation is
Right.
of what happened here, because I obviously have my own interpretation.
Yeah, I think because so a lot of the stuff that you're saying here is stuff that we don't exactly know at first. You can kind of glean something. You glean that something's wrong, right? Because she's talking about how the medicine makes her feel weird, but they make her
Right.
take it anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
they actually take it away from her and you have to get it back. Are you talking about the duotine? So
yes.
they give her medicine right in the first scene,
Okay.
and she's like, "I don't feel good." She hallucinates, and it's a very gruesome hallucination. The the first couple chapters are pretty gruesome. They don't always stay that way, but like
Yes.
the beginning of the game is extreme. It is extremely gruesome. And so the doctor said, take the pills away, don't let her have it again." But you get a message from your cat who is missing saying that you need to take the pills, they will
Oh,
help you
right.
see.
Um,
Yeah.
so that just to jump way ahead, and this is spoiler territory, but that message isn't actually from your. That's not actually your cat, right?
Correct. Yes. If you're
Okay.
asking me my opinion, well,
Yes.
it's tough. It's tough. I
You
don't
do
know.
you do meet your cat, like, you are chasing down your cat, you do find your cat on this quest, but I don't think it's your cat that's guiding you.
Right.
It
Correct.
is okay, alright. So, anyway, so you do glean some things like, okay, you pretty early on in this chapter start to learn that kids are being lobotomized. The sewn together thing you learn a lot later, but
Yeah.
it is happening at this hospital. Um,
Yes.
there are two doctors, Dr. Oswald,
Hmm.
who you don't know very much about in this first chapter at all.
He's like the
Um,
founder. He's like the head honcho.
right, and then there's Dr.
Dern.
Marcel Dern.
Oh yeah,
And
Marcel.
the implication from what Fran witnesses is Marcel Dern is evil, right? He's doing something bad to these kids.
Right.
And he has trapped you here, and something very sinister is going on, and Marcel Dern is behind it. And then so what happens is you get this it's one of these games where you are jumping between realities
Hmm.
to solve puzzles. You have the duotine, and when you take it, you get transported to this horrifying other world where everything is gory. Characters that you have just met in the real world,
Yeah.
you just see them dead, dismembered, or being tortured by these black ghosts that you will learn more about throughout the
Yeah.
game. And also, you see a white ghost, like a young girl, a glowing white girl who just appears randomly
Hmm.
and runs out of, like, every time you see her, she immediately runs out of the scene. That is a question I still have. I don't know
Sure.
who she was.
I think in playing this game, there's always going to be some questions that maybe you're not going to understand. And I would
Yeah.
say with a more artistic game like this, in kind of a Twin Peaks way, some of it can be abstract and
Hmm.
only symbolic. But I actually also think that a lot of it is to be taken at face value, which is
Yeah.
something that a lot of people debate and theorize that, as you are, your main goal is to figure out what happened to your parents and what's actually what was happening to you,
And where's my
essentially.
cat?
And where's my cat? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened here? There's
Yeah.
been this horrific murder, this horrific crime. What is this? Um, and as you do this, you do go. It's divided into chapters. The game is,
Hmm.
and divided into settings in those chapters.
Yeah.
They're not all scary, actually, but they are all fantastical.
Yes.
And so, how do you interpret that as you're going through these settings? Because they're obviously, the one setting is you're in the mental institution. There's another setting called it, Etheria. That's King's Quest. I'm
Ithersta.
Ethersta. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's kind of why I wanted to go through this a little bit, and maybe we could speed along. Maybe I'm getting too granular, but that's
Mhm.
kind of why I wanted to go through this chronologically through the game, because I feel differently about each setting.
Okay.
So so we go through this thing, and there's a lot of heavy stuff. We're trying to escape the asylum. You're using your duotine to jump back and forth between realities, and
Yeah.
sometimes that is clearly symbolic, right? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it is clearly like you were in the same room all along, and just when you take this, things look scarier. But
Yeah.
sometimes you affect one reality by behaving in the other.
Right.
So
Right.
clearly, because things are physically happening, I think you are actually leaving one reality and going into the other. That's the
Yes.
only explanation, unless the entire thing is a hallucination. So
Yes.
if
Correct.
you were
I
to
don't
believe that
believe
there's
that. I
yeah,
don't think it is a hallucination. I think
right,
that later in this game, we find clues and research by
yeah,
Dr. Oswald, and like there was like a book in his office. It might not have been in his office, but we find something that actually describes all the 5 different realities
yes.
that there are. So if
So
for those of you who are thinking like maybe Fran Bow was just hallucinating, I don't think that's what the game is trying to do. I
yeah,
think
me
I
neither.
think it is both. I think this is a game about different realities
Hmm.
that you're going through, and also being symbolism for trauma. I think it's both.
Yeah, because at this point, you're seeing these ghosts hanging over these kids, and they
Yeah.
seem to be both feeding on and deepening those kids' trauma, right?
Right.
Like, there's even a point where you have to chase one away
Yeah.
to basically free a kid.
Yes.
And that so you have like an understanding of it. That understanding is going to change throughout the game.
Mhm.
Like later you'll find out what these things are, what their name is, and what their role in this like lore is. But at the
Yeah.
time, you just see them as this metaphor for the ways that trauma or mental illness or tragedy or depression hang over us and just pull
Yeah.
us down, and cling to us and feed off of us.
There is another theory, though, and don't get
Okay.
me wrong, I believe this game is about it has multiple realities in it. I think that is how the game
Yeah.
describes it to you, and I think that is how you are to take it. However, if you look at the names of the chapters, I think they're very interesting. One of the names is like um My Sober Day. And that kind of
Yes.
begs the question of like Fran is being experimented on. To what extent is she being experimented on to where she is not sober and not seeing things correctly and not in the ultra reality that we get into?
Which
And
is,
I want
yeah,
to,
it's interesting. The chapter that's called My Sober Day is this first chapter where you are taking drugs to enter another reality, right? Like
yeah,
that is strange. And I will also say something else about My Sober Day. You feel like you are delving into realities about this asylum.
yeah,
Some of these conclusions you come to are just wrong.
yeah.
Some of these conclusions, and again, we're going to be spoiling, so I'm just going to say it now. Dr. D, God, what's his name?
Dern.
Dr. D Dern,
Mhm.
two E's, so it's hard to.
Yeah,
But Dr. Dern is not the bad guy. Dr. Dern
correct.
is
Yeah,
trying to help you, and you see him having a conversation with your aunt, and you think, based on this conversation, it seems like your aunt is trying to help you, and he is trying to keep you uh, in this horrible place,
yeah,
to harm you. And the very opposite is happening. So, like, it
right.
is weird to have it called My Sober Day when even the realities you're uncovering aren't sober realities. Some of them are wrong.
Yeah.
um,
Did you notice that chapter 3 is called Vegetative State? So in chapter 3,
okay.
chapter 3 kind of pivots. At the end of chapter 2, it's implied that you fall and like you injure yourself somehow. You wake up as a tree that cannot move. You cannot move. It's also called vegetative state. And a lot of people theorize that you're not even in this reality, but you are instead, is this one a hallucination where you're actually paralyzed in a different state? And I think a lot of these things can be like holding hands,
Hmm.
because I still firmly believe we're hopping realities, but specifically we're hopping two realities. I don't know if
Well,
you
that
if
is
you
the
think,
only that is the only way, for this game to have had a happy ending. Also, if this other reality, the vegetative state reality, is real. Otherwise,
I
this game has an incredibly depressive ending.
I do think it's a sad ending, to be honest with you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
uh, to truck right along, we get out of the asylum. Um, we find like we're being led not by our cat Mr. Midnight, but by like a mechanical cat.
Yeah.
And he leads us into a maze, which is like a legit maze, with
Mhm.
stealth elements. It sucks. There are some parts of this game that do not work for me.
Sure. Same.
And
Same.
like there are some arcade segments. There are some. This is a legitimate maze.
There's a cog puzzle that drove me insane, as you can imagine.
It's a cog slider puzzle. It is
Yeah,
both
right.
things. The cogs are on blocks that you have to slide. And there's a lot of like, go look at a poster. It'll tell you like a series of things you have to do in a specific order. And then you got to go to the thing and do it. And then
Yeah.
you're like, ah, fuck, I forget. And you go back to the post. And then you're like, fine, I'll just get a piece of paper and write it down. There's a lot of that. Um, and I think this is one of the things that makes me bounce off this game a little bit is like, I found most of and we'll get back to the story in a second, but I found a lot of the puzzles to be tedious.
Okay.
I found a lot of times I was like, oh, okay, this is a fetch quest. Or,
Yes.
oh, okay,
Yes.
this is, okay, I see what I have to do. this isn't like, again, this isn't like logic. I don't have to think my way through this. I just have to memorize this thing and go back and
Mhm.
do it, right? Like there was a lot of stuff where it's like, I'm not stumped. I just don't really feel like doing this.
No, I
Um
I I
mhm,
totally get that. You know what? I think some of it is because yes, it can be very fetch questy. You are trying to help other characters and maybe not even help, but you're just trying to
yeah, not
find
not
ways
always, yeah.
out and yeah. And so that is very fetch questy. And I think Fran Bow is such a dense game in terms of stimulation that it can be a little exhausting to do some of these fetch quests. I think a good example is actually the second chapter where you're helping the twins. There's a set of
Mhm.
twins that were sewn together, and
Oh yeah,
that's
good
kind of
good point.
yeah,
Yeah, we can just get back right back into the,
yeah,
because that's basically where we go to next. Right after the maze,
yeah,
we go through like some weird, we help some bugs. Like that's a weird thing too. There's a lot of bugs,
yeah.
like giant
It's
bugs in this
very
game.
sanitarium in a way, isn't it?
Right.
Like each chapter is vastly different from the other.
And the bugs don't, I cannot find any symbolism with the bugs. The bugs are just, I think, magical creatures that are just
Right.
like, we need a creature here. Maybe it'd be
Yeah.
funny if it was a bug.
Well, I do
um
want to say that, like, if you, there's definitely a lot of things that this game took inspiration from. Alice in
mhm.
Wonderland is one of them. And I
Yes,
do
we
think
will
there,
definitely get
yeah,
to that. Yeah.
I do think there are some elements that are simply inspired by. They don't,
Okay.
and that's fine. They don't have to, and not everything has to have
Yeah.
symbolism. They can just be a part of this world, that the dev was creating.
So then the next thing is you get kidnapped, uh, and it's two twin girls in like a spooky kind of like an
Yeah.
overly normal, that kind of spooky where it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
house is normal but a little too normal. And
Yeah.
then as you go to certain places, it's like, oh wait, this isn't normal at all. But they're two twin girls who want you to be their cat. um and they're a little older than you, and because they're older than you, they tell you they get to order you around and tell you what to do.
Correct.
And so
Yeah.
they are trying to make you do a spell for them.
Yeah, they need your help,
They need your
essentially.
help to cast a
Yeah.
spell, and it becomes very clear really soon that if you do this spell, you are going to die. So instead, it's kind of cool actually. Instead, you trick them into casting a completely different spell.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. But so okay,
It is a nice one, and this kind of reiterates, I think this reiterates the notion and idea of another reality that we're
yeah,
in, and the fact that, yeah, these are girls that were experimented on. Um and I like the idea of
yes,
doing this other spell because I don't know how you felt. I feel like we freed them because they said they were not born this way. They were not
right.
born conjoined. And so I felt like when we cast the spell on them, their ghosts separated and they were no longer sewn together anymore.
Right. I mean, in this, we see them both together and separate at different points.
Yes,
But
correct.
in this entire chapter, are they sewn together, or do they bounce back and forth in this chapter? I cannot remember.
They do not bounce back and forth, but we do see their kind of ghostly images, and we also kind of get an idea of what might actually be happening in kind of the real world. So, if you take your duotine in the house, you will
Mhm.
fall into a well, just a
Yes.
really rancid well. And there are two babies in that well. And I think those are the girls in the realistic reality that there is. Like I think that there were a lot of failed experimentations in the real world from Dr. Oswald. I think that was the symbol of one of those realities.
Right. And they talk about that later. They do
Yeah.
talk about so these girls are named Clara and Maya.
Hmm.
Clara and Mia. And
Mia, I think, yeah.
we continue to learn about them throughout the game. So yeah, so you're in this house at this point. This chapter is basically just like a gathering ingredients point and
Yes.
click puzzle chapter. You're just
Yeah.
walking around and you know exactly what you need to get, and some of the ingredients are easy and obvious, and other ones you have to really think it through.
Yeah.
And you have your duotine, so you're jumping back and forth between realities. But this is also where
Yeah.
you find your cat. You finally find your cat.
Yeah. And
You
he
find
can
Mr.
talk for some reason.
He can talk. You find Mr. Midnight in a cage. But yeah, when you take your duotine anywhere, but there's like 2 rooms that turn into other rooms. But when you
Hmm.
take it in any but those 2 rooms, yeah, you just fall to the bottom of a well.
And I think that's
You also
very
find
smart.
a baby crib with 2 babies sewn together, which clearly are
Yes.
meant to represent Clara and Mia as
Yeah.
when this happened, because it's clear that the wounds are fresh.
Yeah. And like, bear in mind, this is not just to be frightening. This does tie into the overall
Yeah.
story, like very specifically twins, and like not even metaphorically, but literally, this ties into the bigger picture and the end.
And this is where you start to get some sense of that there are multiple forces guiding you here.
Yeah.
So this chapter is where you start to realize, oh, that mechanical cat and Mr. Midnight are just entirely separate entities. They do not relate to each other.
Right.
This is also the chapter where you realize, I don't know if you get his name yet, but this character that's been popping up occasionally, you start to realize, oh, he's helping me, and he's this terrifying skeleton man with a top hat. His
Yeah.
name is Itward. You've
Mhm.
seen the word Itward written
Right.
in the asylum. And this is where you start to realize, wait, it seems like this guy's helping me. Of course, you don't totally trust it
Right.
because he's terrifying and because so many people are trying to take advantage of you. But
Yeah.
this is where you start to get the idea of like, oh, he's at least trying to help me to his own ends,
Yeah.
which at least partially coincide with my own, at least
Right.
right now. This is, and also we haven't talked about this yet. There's another character. We don't have his name yet, but I'll just say it. His name is Remor.
Yeah.
Remor.
Mhm.
Remor. Oh, like remorse.
Yep.
So Remor is this. This is the and it's clear from the very beginning of the game. This is the architect of our misery. This is
Mhm.
the person. This is the being. He's got a big like goat skull on the front of his head,
Mhm.
and he's like a spiky blobby black ghost creature.
Yeah. He looks. We're still talking about Rumor, right?
Yeah, covered
Yeah.
in, and he's got blood on his skull, and yeah.
Yeah. He definitely has the goat type of aesthetic, where you could tie that into maybe being a demon if you really wanted to.
Yeah. I think he is I think he is meant to represent a demon.
Yeah, I do too.
So Remor is like pursuing you throughout this game. He was there. He was present when your parents died. He has been taunting you throughout the game. He is pursuing you. He tells you he's going to kill you and your cat.
Mhm.
And so some of these forces begin to become clear here
Right.
in this house chapter. And that's where you escape. You like Rosa said, you split these girls apart, and then you escape with your cat, and you're like, oh, everything's great. And that's when you get chucked down a hole.
Right.
Remor
Right.
tosses you down a hole. So this is what you're talking about. This is the chapter called Vegetative State. And that is,
Vegetated, yeah.
I hadn't thought that through, because she falls and now she's in this other world called Itharsta.
Ithursta. It's a weird one. It's a weird one.
And everybody there, she's a tree, and everybody there are like root vegetables or other
Yeah.
plants.
It's
Some
yes, it's very nature inspired, very light. It sounds like its name, Ithursta. You know what I mean?
some are bugs. Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, and this is the one. This isn't very scary. This
It
whole
is not.
chapter is not very scary. Like, there are some. You still find yourself every now and then taunted by evil spirits who take your form or take the form of other people in your life
Mhm.
to scare you, which is probably Remor's doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, but this whole chapter is just, it's a total tone shift. You're just in a fantastical, magical nature world.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just doing puzzles. This is where you're mostly
Yeah.
doing fetch quests for a wizard, and you're just trying to get back to your
Yeah. And I
turn back human. And
really liked that chapter a
okay,
lot. It felt like in the art world, it feels like a breath of fresh air. You
hmm
can't just when you're doing very personal art like that,
hmm
you can't just throw heaviness on the viewer all the time because
right,
you get desensitized to it. I'm sure you kind of felt that way after seeing so many gruesome things. You start to get desensitized to what you're seeing, and that might actually lose meaning. So I felt like the Athirsta being one with nature, and going through more of the story that way was such a breath of fresh air. You
okay,
know, it felt more it felt like it felt for a moment that Fran was at peace
hmm
and was somewhere happy, somewhere peaceful. And I guess you could
yeah,
make the argument that it was kind of like a heavenly place. Some people find that to be when you actually die and you're now in an undead world. Um, if Thirsta does have a heavenly type of a thing to it. I don't think that's necessarily what the game is trying to say. You can theorize that. With art, you can theorize anything. But it does have that heavenly part to it,
right,
I guess. Or at
and
least
mhm.
she's regenerating. She's like being regenerated.
And by what you said, I think that's interesting. Yeah, earlier when you pointed out the vegetative state, because you do at the end of this chapter, you do end up just back in the woods.
Mhm.
So I think it is entirely reasonable to imagine. And again, and you are turned into a piece of wood for
Mhm.
this whole thing. You're turned into a wood plank and you're trying to become a girl again. So you start as like paralyzed and then you become, you know, again, like you are not you. So
Right.
this idea that you were just lying on the floor of the woods hallucinating, I don't think is a bad idea.
Right. I don't think I
Um
don't think so either. And even though I fully believe at taking this game at face value,
mhm,
I also believe because it is such a personal artistic piece and a meaningful piece that you can take it as that as well. You can look at it as though Fran has passed over and we're more just unraveling the what's happening in a different reality that might be a death
mhm.
reality.
Right. So interesting. Okay.
It
So
is it is really interesting.
this is also where you start to learn some of the mythology of this whole thing. So you learn about these creatures, these dark ghosts that were looming over the kids,
Yeah.
and that you keep seeing in different places. You learn that they're called Kamalas,
Yes.
not
No
Harris.
no
No
relation. Yeah.
relation. uh, you learn that they're called Kamalas, and I guess water for some reason transforms them into Velokas, which
Yeah.
are which goes from these creatures of like darkness and sorrow to these calm, peaceful white creatures. And so
Yeah.
you realize that at all these dark ghosts that you're seeing are these corrupted versions
Correct. Yeah.
of ghosts, and then all these white um ghosts that you've been seeing are these like evolved forms of those
Yeah.
same ghosts. These
Valakas, I think,
yeah,
maybe.
Volokas.
Yeah. I think it's really
Valakas.
smart and
Or
very
maybe it's
symbolic.
Valokas.
Yeah,
What?
I'm not I honestly, we could be
Valokas? Yeah.
pronouncing all of this stuff wrong and I wouldn't know.
Mhm,
But I think it's very smart to have like water as a purifier. Um
mhm,
and I think it's interesting that when you put the water on kind of these tortured souls, right? Who are clearly, we can clearly determine that they are tortured souls. We saw them in the
That's right.
institution.
Yeah.
They're traumatized souls, basically. They're very dark and tortured. But when you purify them with water, they are almost hurting even more until they're purified. And I take that personally as doing the work. I think it's interesting
Oh,
that when
right.
you are trying to fix yourself, it is insanely painful and you have to be open. You have to be open to being hurt in order to fix yourself, in order to get to
Mm,
that lightness. It hurts. It hurts,
yeah.
And I just think that's very smart and very realistic, and it's really meaningful. I found this whole game very, very poignant and meaningful to me.
Um, so I wonder. There's also a couple other things we learned about the Valakas, which is first of all, then we start making the connection. Oh, that white ghost of a girl that we've been seeing over and over. And again, there's a lot of weird creatures you see only once. They just
Right.
appear and their whole thing is to be scary and intimidate you, and then they're gone. And
Right.
like that's whatever. Some of them have very clear symbolic meanings. Some of them just are scary. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. But
Yeah.
we see this white girl ghost like a half dozen times. And always
Yeah.
very significantly. Like the game pauses to watch her like walk away.
Yes.
And sometimes you can click on her and Fran Bow will give a little wave. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. That's true. She will
and
wave.
so I keep wondering, what is that girl?
Hmm.
I've had theories it might be Fran Bow's mom. I have theories it's just a random ghost that has gone through something maybe similar to you and is just trying to look out for you. But she never interacts with your story. She doesn't
Right.
really like she walks away from you sometimes and leads you to the next screen, but it'd be a screen you could go to any like she never leads you to anything. She doesn't actually help in any meaningful way. She's just
Correct.
there. And that is interesting to me, and I don't know if I have any theory as to who she is or what she is.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it's Fran. Part of me thinks it could be
Okay.
Fran that she is seeing in another reality because it's
We do
interesting.
see another reality Fran at some point, so
We do
that's
see
not
another
too
reality,
yeah.
Fran. Yeah, and it is interesting that you don't always need to take the duotine to see weird things, which again reinforces that we're not just hallucinating; that we
Yeah.
are that this is happening
Mhm.
at face value. So it could be Fran, and maybe we're not even supposed to know. Maybe we're just
Right.
supposed to theorize, what this could be, because I think this is a game where we do have solid answers for some things,
Yeah.
and it's black and white, and other things are not so black and white. They're gray, or they're symbolic, or
Mhm.
metaphorical for trauma and healing and things
Right.
like that. So my biggest question to you is, now that we've kind of gotten far into this storyline, right?
Yeah.
Who murdered Fran's parents? Because that's the big question, right? That is what we're trying to find out. We need peace of sorts. Who murdered? And this, obviously, we're going to start reflecting on very spoiler heavy stuff now.
Mhm.
So, who do you think is the
I
murderer? It's a tough one.
I mean I think I know who the murderer is, but
Okay.
I don't know if I blame that. Well, there's two. Why
There's a
don't we
few
wait till
theories.
next? Yeah, I want to wait till next chapter to
Okay.
really tell you my theory there.
Fair.
Um, so there's something also interesting mechanically about this chapter that we should talk about, which is instead of taking the duotine, you end up getting a clock that can shift seasons. You can
I love
go,
that, by the
yeah.
way. I really, really,
It
you know what
takes
it
this
reminded me of?
horrifying thing and does this fantastical thing instead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It reminds me of Banjo Kazooey, which is again one of my favorite
Okay.
games. Dude, Matt, you know that I can
Hmm.
parallel just about anything.
Sure.
Like I can like I can find ties to everything, especially in gaming. But like, yeah, in Banjo Kazooie, there is an entire level where you are going through different seasons to solve puzzles. And it's not the
Okay.
same. I know it's not like totally different games, but just the concept of that,
Mhm.
of using different seasons to see different things, to see what has changed. It's very cozy in that way. Um, I love those cozier levels, and I'm a spooky gal. I played Fran Bow because it looked spooky and poignant, but You got to have those cozy things, man. You got to have those seasons and trees and nature. Ah, so nice.
And it is fun. I didn't think they utilized it as much as they could have, right? Like there are some
Sure.
puzzles that are solved by jumping around seasons, and some puzzles that are solved by like you affect something in spring so that
Yes.
it's still there in fall or
Yeah.
whatever. And some of that was okay, but like I think they could have done a lot more with that. But since it was such a small part of the game, I get why it wasn't. I get why it was a little underused, right? Like
Yeah.
but there's some cool puzzle solving with it. But anyway, you do end up getting out of this, and this we find out this is this is about the time we start to learn about the five realities, right? This is where we find a
Yes.
book by a guy either here or right after here is where we find a book by a guy named Leon,
Yes.
and he seems to have gone through pretty much everything we're going through.
Yeah.
Um, and we don't know much about him except for that. Yeah, except for that he seems to have notes on all this stuff, and this is how we learn about the Kamalas and the Valakas. This is
Yeah.
why we learn about the five realities.
Yeah.
Itherca is the second reality. The first reality we never see, but we know that that's where the Valakas
Right.
come from, and that seems to be the reality that created all the other five. The
Mhm.
human world is the third reality.
That's Pandora. Pandora is
We
the third reality.
we
And
don't
that's
know
our reality. Yeah.
we don't know anything about the fourth reality except for I think we learn that Itward, that skeleton man, comes
Mhm.
from there.
Mhm.
And then the fifth reality is like the evil one. That's the one
Right.
we've potentially been visiting with the Duotine. That's the one that
Correct.
all the monsters come from. That's the
Correct.
one that Remor lives in. So anyway, so we learn that, and we get out of here, and then we meet just face to face. We meet Itward, and he tells us, he's like, "Hey, I'm your friend, and I've been trying to help you this whole time." And he brings you to his magical spaceship, and he tells you to like you have to find ingredients for it, and then you have to go on and you have to like fix the spaceship. It's just very point and
Mhm.
click game.
Yes. Yes. It's very point and click.
And there's not even that much symbolic here for the first half of this fourth chapter, right? You're just kind of just like solving puzzles and hanging out with your friend Itward, who was very
Yeah.
scary looking.
Yeah.
Um, but because I guess you just had this really weird experience and you just had this lore dump, so maybe they just need to give you a little break.
Yeah, exactly. I think the devs really tried to be very conscious of how they laid out this story and how they laid out the mood and
Yeah,
atmosphere. Otherwise it can be a bit much.
right. And again, this is a strange thing because uh if Itharca is
A thirsta.
if that is a coma, right?
Mhm.
And then you wake up in the woods, and then whatever this is also a hallucination, would be interesting because this spaceship crashes and you find yourself still in the woods, or
Yes.
actually just past the woods, back to no, yeah, you're still in the woods, and then you get back to your aunt's house.
Yeah.
So like you are so we could say this journey has just been a straight shot from you escaping the asylum, walking through the woods until you got to your aunt's house, and
Right.
all the other stuff could have just been these like either magical or hallucinatory interruptions.
Right.
Um, so what do you think? And so we're about to get to the place where I feel comfortable saying who killed Fran's parents. But
Sure.
what do you? What is your whole? What's your take on Itward as just who the fuck is he? Why is he here? Why does he care?
I wonder about Itward. I wonder about the name Itward.
Mhm.
Um a lot of people speculate that it could be shortened for intensive care. The way that
The intensive
Remore,
care ward.
yes,
Mhm.
and Remore is a little more cut and dry. I think that's remorse. I don't know if I believe that Itward is anything but a conscious, but Fran's like subconscious, that she knows what's right and wrong in her heart, And I could be totally off base, but I do think that this type of game is like there are some things at face value, and then there are, like you said, interruptions, like
Mhm.
hallucinatory interruptions, some things that are purely maybe metaphysical. I struggle with it word because to me it feels like her true heart or something. You know what I mean? You know what I'm
Well,
saying? Like,
he tells her that they've been friends forever. Like he says that he was like
right.
her imaginary friend when she was a kid, but he also
Right.
says he's a lot of kids' imaginary friends,
But
and
he
that
did but
he
she
calls
doesn't
himself a.
even remember
Mhm.
him. Remember? Like she doesn't he has to almost convince her that this was a thing cuz we see Itward's
Yes,
name early on and she's like, "I don't know who that is."
but we've seen Itward the entire game, and
Yeah.
yeah, and but once he tells her that he was her childhood like imaginary friend, sh- she seems to like she's not confused. Like
Yeah.
it seems like she doesn't disagree with that. It seems as if maybe she does remember him on some
Yeah,
level.
on some level. Yeah.
Um and we know that he is like he has had other companions like this. He was Clara and Mia, the twins' companion. Um and
Yeah. That's true.
but then he helped Fran uh kill them.
Yeah,
um
I really don't know. I don't know if this is the yes, that he could just be a spiritual guide that does
mhm.
help children.
And if
Um,
he's gray, maybe he's the and he was born in the fourth reality. So is he really just the gatekeeper
right.
between the human world and the dark world?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I always had a hard time with Itward because I really feel that symbolically he could be something and then literally he could be something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a lot of to me I interpret him just personally. And I'm more than willing to be wrong because this is only my artistic interpretation. To me, he is more of a symbolic, almost subconscious that we all have, that we
Yeah.
all follow, almost like a Jiminy Cricket.
I mean he seems like a Jiminy Cricket. He's got a kind of that sort of look. He also is a little bit like Baron Samdi, the
Mhm,
voodoo spirit.
mhm.
Um he gives me those vibes.
That's true,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a it's hard to who and Baron Samdi leads people to the underworld, right? So like
yeah,
so maybe Fran is dying, right? And he is leading her to her death. Maybe he helped
yeah,
lead her into the world when she was little, and maybe he's helping lead her out. I don't
yeah.
know.
I was thinking
Um
that too, he could be, kind of a deathly character, a deathly character. And yeah, let's get into because I think we'll have some things to say about this. We do make it back, like as you said, to our aunt's house, but we are plucked by Dr. Dern.
and this is
Um,
where we sort of learn Dr. Dern is not our enemy.
correct. Yes.
He
He actually
he
does have good intention. He is a psychiatrist that wants to help us.
and he has just learned that this is where the conspiracy stuff starts to unravel. He
Yeah.
has just learned about the conspiracy. He
Yeah.
thinks that somebody is behind the death of Fran's parents. He
Yes.
wants, and this is a thing, this is a theme in this game, and I think now is as appropriate a time to talk about it as any. um so many people uh are they treat Fran inappropriately for her age.
They do.
And by
Mhm.
by what I mean is like in this chapter he's like, let's go to the graveyard together. Help me dig up your parents, and the
Yeah.
two of us together will search their dead bodies for clues and find out who killed them.
Yeah.
That should so that's one thing. People keep doing this to Fran. They keep giving her these incredibly big responsibilities. They keep giving her tasks that an adult would it would strain an adult's
Yeah.
uh, uh, sanity and emotional capabilities, let alone a
Yeah.
kid's. And here's this thing about Fran: she remains pretty fucking solid throughout the game.
Yes, yeah.
She keeps making jokes. She keeps being cheery. She keeps when even when she meets horrifying creatures, she tries to say something nice about them
Yeah.
or give them the benefit of a doubt. Like,
Yeah. And I think that's definitely, the idea of like children are they're not corrupt until we corrupt them, right? They're not tortured or traumatized and until we do something. They are still children. And I think that makes the story even sadder, right? Just to
mm,
see children who are still finding out who they are and and Fran especially is bewildered and amused by all of these different things, especially animals and things she sees in the game. She finds elements of that joy. And so it is very dark, to
yeah.
think of the bigger story and experimentations on children and how sad that really is.
Yeah, and yes, I think that's true. I think she also it's so interesting how I think there's something about like she's just a kind-hearted person, right? Because she sees like she could see a character. This isn't a direct quote from the game or anything, but she could see a character bleeding from the eyes and screaming at her, right? And it's clearly something that's put there to terrify her. And she gets terrified. She'll jump back, and maybe she'll even tremble. But then she'll be like, "Oh, his eyes must really hurt." And that's why he's yelling. Like she'll give some excuse as to why something's terrorizing her that's very like generous towards them.
Right.
She does this throughout the entire game, and like no matter how horrible things get, she's still like very kind, and always treats everybody with these like very like sweet, childlike, but also just like generous assumptions.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so now we're trying to figure out who killed Fran's parents. It's
Right.
about here, maybe it's a little later, that my first that we get our sort of first clue, and at either this chapter or the next, we see Fran killing her parents
Right.
under the influence of Remor.
Right. Um and you can take that at face value if you want to, because I think again a lot of this game is to be taken that way. We are in a fantasy world and it is a dark world. I don't believe that though. I Because we what we know of Remor, um I believe his sole purpose is to torture and and gaslight us in a way. So I don't interpret I mean the game does have implications of did Fran do it? But there's also all this proof of things saying like we find a newspaper clipping that said like the bodies were perfectly sliced up, which would be difficult for any human, let alone a 10-year-old child. Um and I think based on what we know, because we find in later in Dr. Oswald's office, you remember he's the head honcho, he's the main researcher, he's the one doing experimentations
Yeah,
on
we find
children.
out he is the bad guy.
He is the bad guy.
Dern, good guy.
Yes.
Oswald,
Oswald,
bad guy.
yeah, not so great. So we find out that actually our mom and our aunt were twins, and they somehow were involved in some of these experimentations. And the theory goes that perhaps Fran's parents didn't want that anymore. They didn't want to be a part of
Yes.
this anymore.
That's what they say in the game,
Yeah.
yeah.
But perhaps the aunt did, and the aunt is not
Yes.
this nice person that we thought she was. The aunt is involved somehow. So I think it's a good theory to speculate that the aunt was somehow involved in the murder. I also wonder, I really wonder if they were dismembered or if Fran was shown something to traumatize her so that the experimentations would be better. They do make it a point to say that the children need to be traumatized in a way to do multiple experimentations. So I do, because we find their graves and they're not dismembered. They're not dismembered. They're intact.
That is a good point. And in Fran's grave, so this is another thing. We find out again in this chapter, the end of chapter 4, we find out that Fran has been reported to the world as dead.
Correct. Yeah.
That after they found the news story goes that after they found her parents, they found her frozen to death.
Right.
We know that that's not true. There's no reality in which that's true. It can't even metaphor. Like it's not
Right.
even true as in like, oh, has she been dead this whole time? It's just the game is not even trying to imply that. The game
Correct. Yeah.
is the game is saying that no matter how much of this game is reality and how much is metaphor,
Hmm.
this was a conspiratorial lie.
Right. Right.
Because again, the cat's in the grave. And
Yes, and that's a sad moment to know that the cat probably perished, with the parents. I think the cat has been dead the whole time. The cat's not talking, that's just another maybe even guided element by Itward. That made me very profoundly sad. This poor, again, it goes back to like this poor innocent child having nothing really and just being mistreated and misused by every authority figure in her life.
I do. There's something that happens with the cat at the very end. We'll get to it. We'll get to it because I do like we're so close to the end here. I just do
Yeah.
want to get through because we haven't talked about chapter 5. So chapter 5 is, Remor shows up and kills Dr. Dern, and then how does this happen? Fran gets caught, right? And she just wakes up back in the asylum, and her
Yeah.
aunt is there.
Her
And
aunt is there. Yeah. And she's
is
definitely a bad guy.
she's clearly working
Yes.
with Dr. Oswald.
Yeah.
Um,
Basically, end game is basically Aunt Grace is there. They're kind of in this weird limbo kind of state where it's somewhat reality, but also they're like on the edge of the world. And
and you've just spent the whole chapter going through this like this house
yeah,
full of metaphors. Every room is sort of kind
yeah,
of a metaphor for and some of them are clear and some of them are
yeah,
very unclear. Some of them
yeah.
just seem bizarre.
At
But
this point,
you're trying to
Mr.
wake up Remor's mother, who
Yes.
is this like ultimate like goddess of darkness, Mabuka.
Yeah.
And yeah, whatever. But yeah, then you come to this end game.
Yeah. Um yeah, it's really interesting because I think that in a way the dark side wanted to claim her as some kind of key keeper, right? Because she's always opening, she has this like ability, right? This kind of special ability. They keep saying Fran is a special girl, and whether she was born that way or it's because of experimentation, don't really know.
Right.
But it seemed like that dark side wanted her for something, which is why Remor didn't want her to escape this quote insanity.
Mhm.
But at that end, as we're trying to figure out what to do, Aunt Grace kills our cat. She throws Mr. Midnight over the edge
Yeah.
of wherever that we are. Fran loses it, and at this point, it should be noted that Mr. Midnight is not talking. He is just a cat, and like I said, he is not talking at this point. He's just meowing. But Aunt Grace kills the cat. Fran loses it and tackles her aunt with kind of this insane strength. And Oswald shoots her, as in Fran, not Grace. He shoots the child, and even though the child is dying, he still wants to use her for experimentation. It's very harrowing. However, in a very interesting, I guess, kind of end that can be interpreted in multiple ways. Some of the characters from A Thirst to Come to her aid. And now, whether they save her or take her to a heavenly reality, I think is up for interpretation. Some people found this ending to be happy, that she was saved and taken to a Thirsta, by that weird Pokemon looking guy. What are those creatures called? Like axolotls or
Axolotls. He
something?
looks like
Axolotls?
he's like okay, if the creature from the Neverending Journey, what's his name? Falcor?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If Falcor is a dog and a dragon combined, this is an axolotl and a dragon combined.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's cutesy and it's furry, but it looks like an axolotl.
And it's long.
And I want to put something kind of really important out there is axolotls are actually amazing regenerators. They can regenerate their organs and their limbs.
Yes.
And he is who helped to regenerate Fran.
Yes, he is the healer. He is the healer of Itherca.
Yeah, axolotls are awesome.
So yeah, in this final scene, it's strange. The last thing you do is you inject Dr. Dern with this. So you find out that Dr. Dern tells you've had your medicine switched. He was trying to this is how he discovered it. He realized that you have been given the wrong medicine on purpose this whole time.
Yeah,
and
as part of the experimentation. Yeah,
and you discover that really early on in the first chapter, but you don't really know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
You find like a box with 2 types of pills, and you realize that your pills have been switched with another.
Yeah.
But you don't know what that means until here. So, okay, let's talk about Mr. Midnight for a second, because there's a cat in your coffin.
Yes.
You were being led by a mechanical cat for a while, but then you met an actual cat, and you've been spending time with an actual cat who could talk to you.
Yeah.
And then in the last chapter, when you find your cat again, it can't talk; it just meows.
Yes.
And then when that dragon creature Pelantras and Itward come to save you, the first thing he shouts is, "Gorska, she's here." Or Gorska, I found her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, as far as I know, Gorska is a name. It's a Polish name. It is not and maybe it's supposed to be a word in their language, the Itharsta language.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It doesn't appear to be like a known exclamation in any other language, and maybe a listener can write in and tell us if I'm wrong. But my Googling didn't come up with anything. All it came up with is that Gorska's a name.
Yeah.
And immediately upon saying it, the cat runs up from his back, and Mr. Midnight is there again. And also, this entire time, people have been calling Mr. Midnight a traitor. All the bad guys call Mr. Midnight a traitor.
They do. They do.
Like Remor and Grace and Oswald call him a traitor.
Yeah. That is a particularly confusing thing to me.
So and they seem to know about all these they know who Itward is.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to know about all these other realities and characters and stuff. Also, the other thing we learn, okay, so we kind of glossed over this, but Lucia and Grace, Grace is your aunt, Lucia's your mom. They were twins, and they were part of Dr. Oswald's experiments. Also, they were there at the exact same time as Clara and Mia.
Yeah.
The two who got sewn together, the twins who got sewn together were there. And they were all there with a man named Leon.
Right.
Who was a doctor at the time, too. And he's the one who wrote the book.
Right.
But anyway, so who the fuck is Mr. Midnight?
I don't know.
Is that a manifestation of Leon? Is that another character named Gorska who switched sides? Like,
yeah,
it would make sense if he was to call him a traitor if it's Leon. And when you meet the other manifestation of Fran, who seems to be willingly taking part in the experiments that you, Fran, escaped.
Right.
When you meet that Fran, she tells you she never had a cat.
Right.
And she tells you that she had spoken to a man named Leon who told her some of the stuff that you, Fran Bow, in the game have told her.
Yeah.
So in her reality, was he never a cat? Was he just Leon? And in your reality, Leon was the cat? And that's
I
why he's a
yeah.
traitor because he changed side. Like, it's so, I don't know. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Um, and trying to track that plot wise is hard enough. Now trying to track it as a metaphor, fucking impossible. I don't know
It's
what the
hard.
metaphor
Yeah.
of Mr. Midnight is. I don't know. I don't get it at all. Um,
It's hard. Yeah, I do like the theory of that being like Leon
mhm,
as the traitor, as the one we don't see that is on like the light side of
yeah,
things that want Fran to be happy. Um yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot. I mean, in re-talking about
yeah,
this, there's really a lot going on in this plot. There is a
yes.
lot of story. There's a lot of things to understand, a lot of characters. Um, but do you agree with my theory on Grace being part of the murder, at
So
least?
yeah, I want to talk about the murder again before we wrap this up because
Yeah,
now that we've gotten through the whole plot, I think there's a couple things. I think on a metaphysical level, there's the possibility that Fran was um, Fran, who, like you're saying, has not been able to be corrupted or reduced by any of these incredibly traumatic experiences she's been through.
correct.
She has been
Yeah,
a rock. So the idea that somebody could have corrupted her is a little difficult to swallow. So
it is strange. Yeah,
did
it is
did
strange.
Rem- did Remor corrupt her, or if we're talking about this as all a metaphor, um, did Oswald drug her, and that's what got her to do the killing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Was
But
is there
even
no
then,
is Remor? Yeah.
I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I just don't see her being able to do it.
hmm And so on a conspiracy level, did Grace and Oswald or some other henchman kill the parents and they blamed it on Fran? Or well, they did a lot, right?
Yeah, they did a
They
lot.
they pretended that Fran died to the public and then to Fran told her that she killed them.
Right. Yes.
But they didn't. That's another thing. In the scene right before we escape the institution, we see, and this is why we think Dr. Dern is a bad guy, because Grace wants to tell her something, and Dr. Dern's like, she's not ready. So,
Right.
did they actually ever even tell her that she killed her parents?
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, if they didn't tell her, then where is she getting this idea from?
Right.
Right? So, like, if it is a conspiracy to trick her into feeling like she was corrupted, again, unless Remor literally exists, and like you said, he's just trying to torture her.
Yeah, I think he is trying to not allow her peace so that she can be part of the reality he's in.
I so
As this like keeper of keys or something.
so like a lot of stuff in this game, I'm holding all three realities in my head at once, right? Like I
Yeah.
believe that, like I don't have a conclusion.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, so I'm just I interpret the game in all three ways at the same time.
That's fair.
um
Yeah, that's fair.
because I think that's a lot of this stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
did they mean this to be a metaphor? Did they mean this to be a reality, a different reality? Did they mean this to be a hallucination?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, maybe all three.
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely interpret it any of those ways. I think because I'm like so close to the themes in this
Yeah.
game, I kind of come out of it feeling very sad and that to me this is a fantastical world to me, but it is a fantastical world that is presenting themes of trauma
Yes.
and mental illness. So I think instead of even being a very scary story, which it is, psychological stuff is scary. It can be very
Yeah.
frightening. In fact, the whole first scene where she's in the institution reminded me of when I was a child and in an institution, and it did feel that frightening. It did feel scary. And again, you're just a
hmm
child, you know.
hmm
So it's interesting and sad and poignant that they have her in this kind of horrible place, and yet she finds amusement at certain decor in the institution and things like that. So I actually take it away as
Yeah.
I did play a fantasy game. That's how I interpret it. But there are very realistic themes within this fantasy game that speak to people who have experienced trauma like that.
Um, so let me add one more thing
Mhm.
here. In the final chapter, as Fran Bow, you see a picture of Fran with her childhood friend. And that childhood friend's name is Alice. And
Right.
Alice has told you all about her fantastic adventures.
Yes.
This is clearly Alice from Alice in Wonderland
Yeah.
and Through the Looking Glass.
Mhm.
What that made me think of immediately is like Fran Bow is like this dark side of that. Like Alice in Wonderland is a dark story, but this
Yeah.
is like just another similar tale of like a metaphorical idea of what it means to grow up. But this is like what it means to grow up with trauma, rather than
Right.
just what it means for that growing up is traumatic.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Like I just think I don't know if I don't know what I have here, right? Besides that, it is interesting to compare this to Alice in Wonderland.
It is. It is. It's very contrasting in a way where
Hmm.
it's like kind of telling these fantastical stories with creatures and learning how to mature and grow up, except Alice comes from kind of this place of privilege. Um and
Mm,
Fran comes from a very sad place, a place of pain and trauma, and uh and how that children like that deserve their stories to be told as well, even in this fantastical sort of way, you know.
hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like the story for a traumatized child, you know,
Yeah.
something for them to gravitate towards, I guess.
So
Sorry, it's a heavy one, you guys. I
yeah,
find this very sad. I find it a very sad game.
and it is a lot more emotionally heavy than it is scary. Like especially the start of this game is very scary,
Yeah.
very spooky. But there's a lot more in terms of like emotional heaviness to this game than there is
Yes.
scariness.
Yeah, which I think kind of lends itself really well to horror. I think it's a good way to express yourself, and like I said, the one of the devs, Natalia, this was an expression of her feelings and experiences she had as a child. And
Hmm.
I often think about how horrific that can be. You know, like I said, when I was young and in like an institution, that felt horrifying to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is horror in a
Yeah.
way. In a way, I think it'll really resonate with people who've had those experiences.
So, do you have anything else to add about this before we move on?
I don't think so. I think we actually really covered it really well. I really
Yeah.
like this game. I
Right.
really like this game. I appreciate the game's candor and kind of in your face themes and everything that it gives us to think about. I think it's really worth playing, but I do want to say this. I think it can drudge up bad feelings and bad memories if you're not in a good space to play it.
Hmm.
If you've kind of come from trauma, if you've had bad experiences as a kid, even I have to watch myself when I talk about Fran Bow or play it because it can be disturbing, I think, for some people. There's imagery
Hmm.
in here that is disturbing.
Right.
That has even been criticized for being as such. But I do think because of the place it's coming from, from the dev and the heart and candor that was put into it, I think it is very much worth looking into if you have the headspace for it.
Right. So I do think, yeah, being in the right headspace. I also would not suggest people play it the way we did. I do not, or the way
Mm,
at least I did. I would not
mhm.
suggest people play it beginning to end.
Right.
All like give yourself some time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with
Um,
that.
yeah, give yourself like take breaks from it, and not only because it's heavy, but also because it changes in theme so much, and it's longer than you think it is.
Yeah.
Uh, or it's not that long. It's only like 6 hours long, but it feels kind of long because again, it changes in theme and direction and tone so
Yes.
strongly that you will feel a little exhausted at times. You'll be like, okay, I just got through this whole thing. Maybe I'm excited to see it continue. Oh, and now I'm in this totally other world full of all these puzzles that are completely unrelated to the puzzles that I just did. And that can feel exhausting. That's fine. Take a break. Play it next week.
Yeah, it is, like I said earlier, it is dense. It is dense with characters, with stimuli. So yeah, I agree that it could do with some breaks if you're gonna play it. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's all we have to say, then I guess it's time for us to
order a pizza. I'm emotionally distressed.
Drained.
We're all drained.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening. We're still going to do our ranking segment in a minute, but first we want to say we are a part of the Adventure Game Hotspot Network. You can go to adventuregamehotspot.com for news and reviews about adventure games, and also, see what else all of our network mates like Cressup and the Classic Gamers Guild and Space Quest Historian are up to.
Yeah.
Do we have anything? Do you have anything else you want to tell people?
No. Not at the moment.
Me neither at the moment. So come back next week for another spooky game. Do we want to tell them what spooky game we're doing next week?
Shall we? Do we even know which one we're deciding to do next week?
I think we do. I think it's the ridiculous one.
I can't believe you agreed to do that. Let's not say anything.
Okay. All right, it'll be a surprise. It'll be a surprise. It's a classic game. Horror is a interesting term to use for them.
Yeah. Let's just say I posited this as a joke and Matt went with it, and that's where we are.
And it is 3 games. We are going to be talking about 3 games. So if that helps, and 3 classic adventure games. So if that helps give you a little,
I don't know if it's gonna help anybody, but okay.
Me neither. All right. Well, why don't we throw up some Swanky Maximino and we'll go rank every adventure game. Oh, also, send us emails, mattandroses@gmail.com. Leave us reviews on iTunes and Spotify, and I don't know, tell your friends.
Please praise me. Thank you.
All right, love you, everybody. Listen to Swanky.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your break. I'm Pushing Up Roses. This is my co-host, Matt Aucamp. Welcome back, Matt.
Hi.
How's your break?
It was good.
I have an idea.
It's relaxing. What? Yeah.
It's actually not my idea. It's actually your idea that I'm just repositing for this podcast. But I think we should rank some adventure games because you know what? Someone, meaning you, found a list of like 3,000 adventure games and decided, let's rank them whether we've played them or not.
But we can only rank the ones we've played, right?
Nope. No, we can rank whatever we want. We are in charge of this pod. We're a smart adventure game people. We can just tell. We can
do whatever the fuck. You can't stop us.
Yeah, you gonna stop us?
You can't stop us.
It's a free podcast.
Try, but there's no way you can stop us.
We have lost control of this. We have
done.
Like 35 now?
35
yeah.
now. So we're going to add 5 more to the list. And remember, we can skip 1. We are allowed to skip 1 per episode.
Why do
which
I feel
we have
bad
not
about
done
that,
yet.
Though? Why do I feel bad? I don't understand.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I use a random number generator to find these. So the first one, 2,254. This is from Rock Pocket Games.
Rock Pocket?
In 2019, it's called Moons of Madness. I've
Okay.
I've never even heard of this game before. It looks like sci-fi. Oh, a
It
little
does look like
horror-y.
sci-fi. Yeah. I've never
Um,
I'm kind of shocked actually that I haven't heard of this
it's
game.
Lovecraftian, it's first person. It looks like you're in space and you get attacked by horror creatures, and it looks like they make you have some hallucinations. That's what I'm getting from it so far. It's 3D. Um,
It looks like a little generic to me,
looks a little generic to me too. It's got
but it
some.
doesn't look bad. It doesn't look horrible
It's
by
got
any means.
it's got positive reviews on Steam. Let's look at some of the. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some. Oh, there's a whole there's a whole Reddit thread
Oh
about
boy.
how this is a flawed attempt at refreshing the Lovecraftian
Oh
setting.
boy. Oh no, I do not want to think peace right now. I just did
um,
one.
and it seems like a lot of these like professional reviews put it around like 5 to 6 out of 10.
I would
Maybe
say,
a 7 out of 10 here.
yeah. I want to put
That's
this at
yeah.
the end of our mediocre chunk.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like there's so it's just one of those things. I'd probably go through 7 or 8 other games that are kind of like this before
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I want to play this one.
That's a
Um,
good way to put it. It's like if this was in a like a bundle, would you go for this one first? And I just don't
yeah,
think I
yeah,
would.
yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
I would. I think it's going to go ahead of Violet because Violet was legitimately not good. But maybe
Yeah.
behind Astronomica: The Quest for the Edge of the Universe.
I'm okay with that, and I'm especially okay with it being above Violet. And I was kind of sad to hear that that wasn't a very good game on
I
our
know
last
it's a bummer
episode. Yeah,
because it looks good.
it does. It does. It looks very cute.
Okay, this next one's going to be a tough one.
Oh boy.
I could see an argument for skipping this, for
Okay.
this being a skip, because I haven't played it, but okay. The game is so is number 1634 from Red Thread Games from 2016. It's Dreamfall Chapters.
Oh.
Now I've
Oh,
played
interesting.
The Longest Journey and I liked
Yeah.
it. I don't think it totally holds up.
Yeah.
I've played Dreamfall. I really liked it, though it is a little bit long. It can get a little exhausting. And then
Yeah.
people really speak very, very highly of Dreamfall Chapters, but I have not played it. I own it, and I've owned it for years. But again, these games from this franchise are long and exhausting and like tiring.
I know.
So
Yeah.
it
But then
makes
again, some people really like that. It's kind of a subjective
yes,
thing, you know?
yeah. Um,
I would put this kind of high, to be
Yeah,
honest
I
with
think it would
you.
have to.
Yeah.
I think it would have to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it looks good, and all the
Yeah.
other games from them are good.
It clearly a lot of thought and ideas went into this. It is beloved.
Yeah,
It needs to go sort of somewhat high. It's not my number one by any
yeah, I think
means.
it's gonna go above Clam Man. Like obviously, it's gonna go
Yeah,
above Clam
it'll
Man.
go I think a little bit more work went into it than Clam Man, and it's not a slight. There are tiers of art, okay?
Where would you put it? Like, how would you compare this to like Scratches? Because Scratches, like we've talked about, is such a singular and interesting experience. It's
I would
so
hear me
yeah.
out. Hear me out. I would put it below Scratches as an adventure
Okay.
game experience. That's just my opinion.
Okay. How about this? Where would you put it? Okay, so now there's only one more to compare it to, which is Been There, Dan That. I think this
I would
goes
put it
above
above.
it because this
Yeah.
is a bigger. If it was, I think I would make the argument if it was their third game, Lair of the Clockwork God.
Yeah.
I would make an argument that goes above this, but Been There, Dan That just isn't the accomplishment that Dreamfall Chapters is.
Yeah, I agree. I very much agree with that.
Do you remember where Fran Bow is on our list?
It's like number 2.
It's number 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
For good reason, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and now I've played it, so
Yeah.
okay. Number 1065, This is we're this is funny. It's only going down in number. Every
Okay.
number is like a little lower than last. It's from City Interactive. It's from 2010. It is The Art of Murder: Cards of Destiny.
What in the world? Okay.
uh, it's a lot of images of a woman, a 3D animated woman on her phone.
Oh
Like every single
no.
screenshot, she's on her phone.
I
Screenshot.
don't
Okay, we're on
know
Steam.
about
Screenshot
this.
number 1, she's on her phone. Screenshot number 2, she's not on her phone. And then
But she's on her
three,
phone in another screenshot
then
here.
three. There's
Yeah.
no picture of her. 4, she's on her phone. She's not on her phone. No picture of her. No picture of her. No picture of
Listen,
her. She's
I
on her
don't
phone again. Like she just keeps. And in the the last image, she's on her phone. And in the the cover artwork, she's on her phone. So this is a game about a woman on her phone.
Listen, I know exactly what kind of games these are. There's more than just one Art of Murder games. I know
Yeah.
exactly what kind of games these are, and I'm gonna say I have a little bit of a soft spot for these type of games. I don't judge me.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean they're good. That does not
it's
mean
like
they're good.
they give me this sense like they're sort of like the Sherlock Holmes Frogwares games, or maybe like the Agatha Christie game. Like they've
They're
got
worse.
that.
They're worse than that. They're more in line, and this is not a franchise series, but they're more in line with some of those insane franchise series like CSI, where it's like kind of an adventure game,
Okay.
or like House or something. That's the quality. But again, I have a soft
You
spot
have a
for
soft
those
spot.
games. Yeah.
Um,
Oh my god.
but she is
Dude.
really, really on her phone, dude. Like she just won't put this fucking thing down. I'm like looking at other screenshots from other sources, and this lady's just on her phone. Oh,
You
here's
are so
here's
offended.
a man on his phone. What is this game where everyone won't get off their fucking phone? I'm not one of those guys who's like, these people today, they're always on their phones rather than participate. But that's how I feel. You're in a game.
But this is her job, is that she needs to be a detective. She shouldn't be on her phone. She needs to be
Yeah, you're at work. Here's another screenshot of her. There's a split screen of her and a scientist on their phone.
on their phone.
And here's another split screen of her and like a gangster on their phone. This is too much.
It's too much.
I feel like it feels like I'm exaggerating, but people, if you look up this game, The Art of Murder: Cards of Destiny, you will find over a dozen screenshots of this woman on her phone. And other characters on their what is going on? I've never seen anything like this.
So it's going at number 1, clearly.
I kind of like, I might have to play this fucking game.
I was actually going to pause it. Like, if I'm in town for a tattoo, this is what we should play.
We're going to play
Art of Murder, Cards of Destiny.
Art of Murder, Cards of Destiny. Yeah, there's a bunch. There's
what if we're surprised?
Oh, I own Art of Murder, Hunt for the Puppeteer.
What?
And these
Perfect.
are all $5 games.
Yeah, they're kind of on par with hidden object games, except for like the structure is a little different.
I would say I just flipped through Art of Murder, Hunt for the Puppeteer, which has mixed reviews, by the way. She's not on her phone in any of the screenshots.
I was gonna say, like, what if we play this and she's like not on her phone all that much, and it's just like a coincidence that all the screenshots are
mad.
on her phone?
Then we drop this 10 points, 10 spots. Okay, I'm gonna put this. I'm kind of excited about this. I want to put this above our what we call our mediocre block.
Okay.
I want to put it above the 7th guest.
I do too. I'll put it.
I don't know if I want to put it above. It's hard because sometimes then you contend with like mistakes we've made on this list.
I know.
Right? Because it's like, okay, I don't know if I want to put this above Dark Grim Mariupolis, but I definitely want to put it above Hella Cyberpunk Thriller, but that's impossible because So what if we just put it in between the two as just like
That's
a
fine.
compromise of that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And maybe we'll play it and maybe we'll do a thing where we like move it or something.
Yeah. I think if we play these games that we haven't played before, I think
Mhm.
we should be allowed. Like that's the only way we can move things on this list. Maybe
Agreed.
that's the
Yep.
new rule. We can
Agreed.
move things if we play them.
Okay, fair.
Okay. All right. All right. This is number again. We're just going downward. Number 689 on the list. This is from 2002. It's from Cryo Interactive.
Okay.
I know
I'm
that.
excited.
It is Mystery of the Nautilus.
Mystery of the Nautilus. That's
Also known as Secret of the Nautilus.
Oh, okay.
It was Mystery of the
okay.
Nautilus in the US. It is Secret of the Nautilus.
Right. So this is a Jules Verne type of game.
Yeah, it's got horrible reviews.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is okay. So this
it's got
part
a
of the
1
publisher.
out of 5 on. Oh well, who the hell is Prisgadoskop? I don't know who that is. So, but go ahead.
So like the publisher is the adventure game company again, or the adventure company. They do all those weird, mediocre adventure games. Like again, you guys got to go look up Crime Stories. This is the most off the wall, bizarre thing ever.
And it is abandonware. It looks very much like.
Ugh, I hate it. Actually,
it's the Misclone era.
Yes,
right?
It is, which I hate. Ugh.
Yeah,
I need to put this low. I don't like it. It gives me a bad vibe. It gives me a bad vibe. I got a bad vibe.
I'm getting a bad vibe of it too. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's put it. Oh shit. Okay. Let's put it like.
Vibey person.
I think we put it in this like we have this like garbage dump.
Yeah, we do.
At the bottom, that's like Blue Force, The Fan, Wild Wild West, The Steel Assassin, and Free DC. Those are our bottom 4.
What happened to Weird Truth is Stranger Than Fiction? That should be our final one. Did that get yeeted off the list?
Oh, remember that other time? Remember that one episode? Remember that one episode where I was talking about? I was like, "Why do we only have 35? This doesn't make sense. We should have had." Somewhere we must have overwritten Weird Truth is Stranger Than Fiction.
That game is so
probably the fate that it deserves.
It's just yeeted off the list completely.
I'll put it back on the list. It's back on the list. Weird is Stranger Than Fiction, 1996.
So you're lucky I have like this insane memory. I'm like, no, I remember what the last one was.
Okay.
And it was weird.
The fact that we forgot about it means that stays at the bottom. But I think Mystery of the Nautilus is our new 39. Because our second to last. This one looks like it sucks. Roses, you're going to be so excited about this last game.
All right.
This might be we might get in our first argument.
First? Are you serious? We butt heads, man.
This is number 343. Again, weirdly just going downward.
Okay.
1995. It's by Sierra. What do you think this game is?
It's by Sierra?
It's by Sierra, 1995.
Is it King's Quest 7?
No.
Am I close?
It fits in. I'll just say this: it fits with a spooky month.
Oh my god! Is it Quest for Glory 4?
No.
Damn, I really wanted it to be though.
It is. I'm just gonna say it, unless you want to guess one more time. Gabriel Knight. It is Phantasmagoria.
No. Phantasmagoria. Why? I don't know. I knew that. I knew that was 95. I don't know why that didn't pop up into my head.
This is gonna go high, but I just don't know if I'm gonna put it as high as you. Well, let me think about it. All right. So
no! I'm not gonna put it that high. It's not a good game. I like it.
I want to start with number 1. Like, this is what I want to do for Phantasmagoria because we both like this game. I think maybe you like it more than me.
Probably. I probably do. Yeah, that's fair.
Which is why I thought maybe there would be an argument here, but maybe not. Like you said, you don't think it's a good game. So, so let's start with number 1 and move down until we start to feel doubtful. How about that?
Okay, that's good idea.
Okay. So Portal versus Phantasmagoria, no fucking contest.
No.
Portal's a way better game.
Agreed.
Fran Bow versus Phantasmagoria. I think Fran Bow is more it's just more smartly put together. I think
Yep.
there's more of an authorial voice.
Yep. Agreed.
Papers, Please, way more of an authorial voice.
Oh yeah, no, it's no. I would feel terrible if I did that.
In fact, our top 4, I think, just have really strong voices. Cube Escape, The Lake. Now, granted, this is where I'm starting to feel slightly uncomfortable, maybe, because Cube Escape as an entire series, way better than Phantasmagoria.
Sure.
But this is just Cube Escape, The Lake.
I think we need to go down a little further here.
Okay. So Scratches versus Phantasmagoria. I
now
think
that's tough.
Scratches takes what Phantasmagoria was doing, right? Like Scratches wouldn't exist maybe without Phantasmagoria.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe
to
not.
set the stage, but Scratches does it way better. Like, I'm terrified playing Scratches. Not that scared playing Phantasmagoria.
You know, though, it has such a legacy and such an innovative. They really were doing innovative things with Phantasmagoria. Sierra always tried to do different things with their games and use different tech. It was very important to them. And it's got that legacy, and I don't know if Scratches does. And so, because of that, because of its notoriety, here's the thing: I would play Phantasmagoria over Scratches. That's
okay,
my thing.
I want to move. I think you're making a strong argument. I want to move one more down and see how uncomfortable we are.
Yeah.
To see if you're on the right track here. So moving one more down, Dreamfall Chapters versus Phantasmagoria.
I would still put it above, personally.
Those feel neck and neck to me, though, right? Like, that feels...
Sure.
Those both feel like... And if we go even one step down, Ben there, Dan that versus Phantasmagoria, no contest. We are too far down.
Yeah.
So okay, all right, I get you. So, Scratches versus Phantasmagoria.
That's hard. That's really... I
really
need you
hard
all to know that this is a very difficult decision for me, and this night is ruined now, because...
If I was like, I want to get spooked out, I would play Scratches. Or if I want to play with somebody, it's like, let's play a spooky game to get into the Halloween spirit, I would put on Scratches, not Phantasmagoria. But...
Hear me out. Wait, hear me out, though. But if I were to go on a date with someone, I would put on Phantasmagoria.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking this thing, like, I will probably play Phantasmagoria every 1 to 3 years of my life. I'll probably, like, throw it on and be like, oh, play Phantasmagoria again.
That's kind of my argument.
And I might not finish it every time, though.
Right.
But Scratches I will play probably once every 5 to 10 years, and I will finish it. Yeah. So it, again, keeps it neck and neck with me. Like, I don't know.
Should we tie it for now?
I hate tying it. You know how I feel about tying. We tied Scratches and Amnesia Rebirth. What the fuck
and you were like,
doing?
You like recoiled. You're like, yeah. All right, okay. Okay.
I will concede. No,
I will concede.
No, I will concede. Okay, let's roll a dice. We're just gonna do evens and odds. Which one? Okay. Let's do D. Let's do a D20. Okay. Ready? Evens or odds? Which one's Phantasmagoria?
Even.
Okay. Ready? It's 14. So Phantasmagoria goes ahead of Scratches.
I'm okay with it. I was ready to concede. I was ready.
Me too. Because I was thinking, like, man, I do feel fuzzier about Phantasmagoria
I do too.
than I do about Scratches. But I think Scratches is like a stronger piece of art. But I think, I'm happy with it. Do you feel good. Now that it's there? It's sort of like, you know, when you do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and it's not about going with the one that you land on. It's about how you react.
It's how you feel. Yeah. No, I do.
Now
feel
that it's there, how do you feel? Okay.
I feel good. I do. It's personal preference. People might argue it. I would prefer Phantasmagoria over Scratches.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And it's
the same way sometimes I prefer McDonald's over like a steakhouse, you know? No, I'm saying all right.
No, I don't want either of those things. So this is that was an interesting one. That was an
It's
interesting
interesting.
series of games.
Yeah, we should cover
do.
them.
What if one time when we are tired, right?
Oh boy.
One week when we're like, bleh, and we don't want to like, we don't want to have to play a whole game that week.
Yeah,
Hey,
we
I
just
have
play
homework.
some of
Maybe you have stuff
Phantasmagoria.
going on, or maybe we're just playing. Maybe we're just both stuck on some game that we have, like that we want to play rather than one we have to play.
Yeah.
We do an entire episode. We try to get like 20 on the list in one episode.
Okay.
We just we do an episode where we're just like, all right, let's double this list. That's too many. Let's beef out this list.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. I thought you were going to say let's play Phantasmagoria, and I was getting a little excited, but all right. No, it's fine. It's fine. I understand.
We'll do some Phantasmagoria at some point,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, well, I think that's it.
It's our longest episode to date.
These deep dives, we really go, and we've been doing. It's interesting. We've been doing more deep dives lately.
Yeah, well, I knew with Fran Bow that I would have a lot to say, so I knew it would go long anyway.
But I think like our last 10 episodes, I think that's an exaggeration. But so many of our recent episodes have just been deep dives, and I just want to say, folks. That's not even true. We did our last episode was one, and then it was Broken Sword, and then
we did Broken Sword. That's right.
Like 3 or this month will all be deep dives because it's spooky month.
Yeah.
But I just want to reassure our listeners, like after spooky month, we're not just going to do deep dives. We will do other stuff.
Absolutely.
This will still be a variety sort of.
In fact, this might be a good time to tease that we're considering maybe doing a live show on stream.
Yeah, we can also tease. I think our next Q&A episode is going to be after spooky
month. Yeah.
So there's
what else do we want to tease?
I mean, that's a lot, right? Like they know that they're getting 3 spooky episodes.
Jeez, yeah.
Then a Q&A. Then some point a live episode.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do an all ranking episode. That's so stupid. I'm so excited. I want to do that now.
All right, load it up. Let me just close this one out real quick.
We'll keep going until 1 a.m.
Let's keep going.
And thank you guys all for hanging in there for fucking over 2 hours.
Yeah, dude, if y'all hung in there for 2 hours listening to us, email us and say something that only we would know.
Let's do a code.
Okay, what's the code?
Oh man, what? I don't have one off the top of my head. Let's think about what we talked about today.
Email us with. Damn, I almost had it, Matt. Could you feel it? It was there. It was on the tip of my tongue, and now it's gone.
Email us with
your favorite pizza topping. Yes.
Email us with subject of the email. Why is she on her phone?
I love it.
Why is she on her phone? You don't even have to put anything in the body of the email.
But why is
she on her phone? Why? But if you have a theory as to why she's on her phone,
let us know.
The whole game? Then put that in the body of the email. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. And I guess all we have to say is that podcast is art.
And artists suffer.
This one is special.
It's just like Phantasmagoria.